one thing I noticed this week, in this week of wonder, was that when I wasn't in wonder, I wondered why I wasn't in wonder. Like, what was going on? How come am I not feeling wonder now? Why is that? Am I feeling distracted? Am I, focus on something else? What's going on? Is is wonder only uh, a transient episodic thing, or is this a state that one could be in more often than not?
Mm.
And if so, how? And if not, why? Just kind of little things like that. But in our discussion, we talked about kind of feeling wonder at some of the givens of our surroundings, like the colors and textures in our house, and just our sense of balance. How come we don't fall down all the time when we get up out of our chairs? It's pretty incredible, and it happens without us really often. Most of the time, we're unaware of it, of being balanced. And I'm learning some Tai Chi, so focusing a little more on balance while I'm doing the form, and then I find it sort of sneaking in on me when I'm just moving around and inside and outside and thinking like, oh wow, okay, that felt kind of cool. Yeah, that was a good turn.
That's a great inquiry, into wonder as a state. Like when it's not there, what can you notice about that? It is a state. It is a state that comes and goes. And yet I think of it as a state of mind that's very much about the unconditioned mind. Our minds are conditioned. You notice the thoughts that keep coming up, they're very conditioned. They're very conditioned according to like what you've been focused on. And, some have little markers of anxiety on them and so forth. So it's a very conditioned thing. And wonder is a state of mind that is, less conditioned or, in some way, the natural mind without so much conditioning. That's what I've noticed. Um, and so that's where, the instructions come from to like breathe as if you've never breathed before. And it's interesting that you can kind of conjure that up. You can kind of give your mind the instruction to drop the sense of familiarity that it coats everything with, you know. Um, I think, our minds are, well, even just for a matter of survival, they're used to focusing on the things that constitute, what we need to get done, what needs to happen. And so they put a blinder on a lot of stuff that isn't relevant to that. And they do a kind of cursory glance at things just to, know, okay, I got up from the chair and I didn't fall over. You don't really have to think about that, but something in your mind is like checks, and then it just kind of blots out everything about that experience that isn't relevant to what you think you're doing. I've often wondered about, arriving home and not really remembering any of the drive. It's kind of scary, really. But I know that I probably drove it all very safely, but it's like the mind just screens out what it is that it doesn't think matters and lets you focus on one thing. And it's a good thing that it does that. But when I want to push the wonder button, I have to literally somehow tell the mind not to do that or not to do it so much, not to screen out so much, and to let what's actually present be present. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Eric. And let's see, Richie, you can go ahead.
Um, so I was telling JP, this is kind of a two-parter. after last week, we were talking about playing, and needed more play in our life. I think it was Eric who said that. And so I went off on Wednesday and Thursday on my snowshoes, which I haven't been on in probably a year or two. And of course, I was away for a good part of the winter so far, and so I went out behind my house, way out in the woods, and I was just like amazed at how how far away I was from everything, from any sound, from any whatever. I couldn't even really tell where I was, and that was um, kind of ecstatic. And then I had this thought that I have angina, and I here I was like trudging through the woods, and I thought, well, what if what if something happened to me? And I was like huffing and puffing, and at a couple of times I actually fell down in the snow, and I got a little panicky. But today I went out. And I was raking um, the snow off my greenhouse, and all of a sudden I realized that I was completely out of breath, um, and I started to feel like I was going to pass out, like my head was really hot, and I was like so in my body in a way that I don't want to be. And so aware of my breathing and just every part of me. And then I had to like trudge back into the house through the snow and everything and sit down and find I actually took nitro, which I haven't done. I've only done like once before. Um, and and then I was like really like there's different states of consciousness of thinking of like what's going to happen now. Should I call 911? Uh, and just being really present in how my body was feeling in a way that I don't really want to I don't want to have to be feeling, and I'm like totally here by myself. So it was really scary. So I mean, um, it's two different realms of feeling wonder and feeling the wonder of my body that I take for granted, the breathing that I take for granted all the time, and all of that, and just and then totally focused on, okay, so what do I need to do right now to get out of this situation?
Yeah.
So it's not a good exercise in states of wonder, but that's what it was.
Right. But you can notice things about it. I mean, the thing that I notice in the two stories is, if you're like me, when I have a task and even a physical task, I have a way of just ignoring my body to get the job done. And it's very different than walking in the woods, where you can be exerting yourself. I mean, obviously, walking with snowshoes through snow it's work, but there can be a kind of a presence with the body that can be lost when you're out doing a task. We go into this kind of trance around getting things done, I think. And I'm sure in both situations it's important for you to listen to your body and not overstress your heart. But that was what kind of occurred to me, is that they're two very different kinds of experiences. And I have to say, I think that joy is probably really good for our heart. you know, I don't know the research about that. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I'm just, but to be in a state of joy is probably very good. To be in a state of fear, not so good. Yeah.
Well, I had a sense of my cardiologist, who I then try to reach out to later on. asking, so, you're supposed to be paying attention to, how you're feeling as as you're walking deep in the woods or as you're doing this stuff. But I was like so into just as you're saying, the trudging through the woods and just like dazzled by everything. And then I was so into the task of, the work I was doing, which didn't really feel like I wasn't what I was doing was just pulling snow off the roof and it was coming down. But I was also like every step was a burden that I was totally divorced from. So where am I in consciousness of what I'm doing is
Mhm.
saying so.
So I had forgotten until this moment that one of the assignments was play. And I realized, well, there were a couple of times of wonder. It was hard for me to think of the week. It actually was a really full week. But there was two things, and one in terms of play and wonderment. I tango dance, as some people might know, but I haven't been in a while, and there was an event on Saturday. I was a little concerned about the weather, but landed up volunteering, so I had to go, and had very low expectations. I was actually finding myself, and I was sort of wondering about that, why I'm not looking forward to it. But I was thinking that there wasn't going to be many people there, and it was just not going to be that much fun. It turned out maybe having low expectations was a good thing. It turned out to be fairly well attended, a lot of people I knew, but it was actually quite, it was joyous. There was wonder because in tango, it requires you being in the moment. You have to in order to be able to dance it well. And it's both within yourself and connecting to another person and the music all at the same time. And the other part of it was wondering again, this satisfaction of connection, which the other parts of my wonderment really came mostly in solo moments, like during the snow, people had talked about birds. So I was really focused on these birds out of my window, how they were managing in the blizzard or semi-blizzard, the snowstorm, hiding underneath these rhododendron. And I was really taken with it for a while and just let myself go there, sort of
Beautiful.
prompted by last week's conversation.
Mm.
But these two very different experiences sort of, again, sort of wondering just sort of also more about the meaning for myself, but the social connection and then this sort of part that's very, very private in relationship to the sort of the world and the universe. But I found myself mostly, when I was thinking of what wonderment, was mostly wondering about a lot of things that were going on throughout the week. That was sort of a state of my mind.
I mean, wondering can be a more, intellectual. I wonder about this or I wonder about that. Not necessarily the kind of just sense of awe.
Yeah,
Yeah. There are two different meanings of the word wonder.
yeah.
Though they're related. There can be some awe even in asking the questions and wanting to know the answer. But yeah, I like to distinguish the two.
And some of it was just sort of wondering, yeah, like how to access that state of awe. And again, similar to Eric, sort of wondering if it just sort of comes, it emerges in moments and just allow it to come in and go out and um, notice when it was present and see whether I could bring it more into my experience, not just the intellectual, but into the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
there's a really classic kind of thing in Buddhist teaching of right effort, which is to arouse a wholesome state of mind that's not present, to extend a wholesome state of mind that has arisen, to to turn away from an unwholesome state of mind and let it fall, let it drop, sort of thing. So, in terms of wonder, there's a kind of a way you can kind of prime the pump if you have that intention, if you've set that intention. And this class is a way of kind of like priming that pump, getting it going. And that it might suddenly occur to you, hey, there's an opportunity here to wonder. But, wonder happens. It just arises spontaneously. And you might notice that it has, and there might be a way that you extend it as you did, just giving yourself the time to watch the birds under the rhododendrons.
Mhm.
It's very easy for another state of mind to come along and say, oh, I need to get this done, or I need to do that, and kind of deflect you. So the extending of it is that, no, this matters. This matters. I'm going to give this a little time
Mhm.
and let it breathe.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right. Who else would like to share? Diane.
Um, I guess just noticing what wonder was already present, and I guess I would call them little snacks. Like a couple of times reading a book last night, I stopped on sentences and or phrases and just resonated so beautifully. And when I reread them and I thought about, who is this writer and what do they know in their life that, this has touched me so much? And I thought, oh, this is wonder too. Like it's certainly when I was shoveling and the sun was trying to come out and, there's sort of those moments where you're immersed in it, but then there are many times when you're doing something, even if it is an intellectual pursuit, where these little snippets of what is wonder just pop up. And I think I never thought of them as that before, but now just labeling it like, oh, that's wonder too. It's even human beings can evoke wonder. It's
Yes, absolutely. And even just word choice can evoke wonder.
yeah.
The amazing aspect of language.
Hmm.
Thank you for bringing that dimension in. And Mickey.
Yeah, just following what you said, Diane, I was thinking, well, poetry does that. It's almost like the purpose of poetry is to evoke something on another level, which sometimes is wonder, right? Um, anyway, so one experience that I had last week, I was visiting friends in Florida and I was swimming in the pool. And I love water and I love being in water. And so I thought about wonder and about it was just so amazing that I can be in water, you know, that I can be present in that water. And it was a moment such that I can recall it very clearly. So I think that when you have a moment of presence like that, you can recall it very well. So I realized that
Yes.
a moment of wonder is a moment of presence.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
it may be totally obvious, but yes.
No, I
Oh,
think
right.
it's worth saying.
Yeah.
It's very worth
Yeah.
saying.
Right.
Yes.
Um,
I had Larry
yeah.
Rosenberg used to say something like, "You have to be present to win." You know that old thing about the raffle or whatever. You have to be present to win. You have to be present to wonder. Yes, very much so. So I'm a water guy too. It's just amazing to be able to float in water and swim and all of that. It's wonderful. So thanks. All right. Who else? Chad.
So the person I was in the breakout room with shared a very moving family challenge she's having. I won't share the details. It was quite moving, and I appreciate her sharing. But it made me think, and maybe this will resonate, that I had shared with everybody previously here that I'm experiencing some challenges with my job and career. I'm rather unhappy in my recent career shift. But I've been realizing, particularly in this past week, and the conversation I had in the little breakout room, and it reaffirmed or confirmed the thought that's been going on. I left the job I just left to go to this new job. I took care of special needs patients, people with all manner of and degrees of intellectual and physical disabilities. And I've been realizing pretty profoundly in the last week or so that I really miss it, and that it was the most moving and wondrous job that I've ever had, and that yeah, I think the hardest hours within that job were better than the best hours that I've had at the job that I'm currently in, and
Wow.
somehow being able to care for people that really need it the most was really moving, and really gave me a sense of how good my life is, and the blessings and the gratitude I have for what level of health and well-being that I have. So just to say, I want to say thank you to the person I was sharing with in the room, because it kind of confirms feelings I've been having, and hopefully something I've just said now can help as well. So thank you.
Wow. I'm very happy for you to have that clarity. You know, sometimes knowing your own heart is not always so easy, but it feels like something broke through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I shared this in the in our duo, but I think it bears repeating. So I went cross country skiing today, and I'm out and I'm working really hard, and I'm you know trying to go as fast or as I could go, and just working at it and not really enjoying it. It was more work. And and suddenly I woke up, I woke up and I went, wait, what am I doing? I could be enjoying this. And so I slowed down and I started to ski. But you know how you walk in a retreat, you have mindful walking in a retreat. And so I
Yeah.
started skiing mindfully, right? Very feeling my body, taking my time, just breathing, and it was wonderful.
Wow.
It was wonderful. And so, you mentioned in our meditation, I know you mentioned something about the moments of waking up are as important as, realizing what am I doing and then shifting,
Yes.
be as
Yeah.
important as being able to be. And so that's what I had. I enjoyed that. It was great.
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we meditate in a sense. And there's lots of reasons why we meditate, but that waking up out of a thought, realizing that you're thinking, it's huge. And it carries over into your life. And in this case, you woke up out of a trance of, I've got to get somewhere. I've got to ski as fast as I can, or whatever that was, to, wow, I could be enjoying this. I could be present. This could be about the quality of the experience and not whatever this other thing is that you're in a trance.
Athletic, you know.
So that's huge. And that's really what this practice is about at heart, is we have greater freedom to with our minds rather than just being conditioned to go down some kind of track, pun intended, and to wake up and realize what the choices are, and to realize what actually might be more happy or skillful, joyful, wholesome, all those things. Yeah, all in a moment there. And the irony, of course, is that everybody thinks that going out and cross country skiing is enjoyment, and it is, and there we make it into a task. There we make it into something that it doesn't have to be. Great. All right. Who else? Let me.
Had so many new things. It's kind of hard to separate it all, but the thought that I just had was I made this decision to go on this trip, and now I'm here, and now I've been anxious about it, and why did I do this, and what am I doing, and what is this a retreat? Am I here to be physical and bike or what? And I'm in this tiny house, and this is a tiny house that's tiny. What you see on the screen is about a third of the whole house. But and it has a little hot tub right out in front of it. It's this tiny little place behind another house, but it's completely private. And I was sitting in the hot tub with they have little lights around the yard that people do around their fences, those nice bulbs. I always love those. They always look so cozy, and they are. And then I put my head back, and there's a quarter moon right up ahead. I'm going, maybe this whole trip is just about pleasure, which had never crossed my mind.
Wow.
Like, this was about, am I being a student on this? Am I trying to be is this a spiritual retreat? Is this, and maybe it's just to enjoy. That's a different mindset for me.
Yeah.
Like that I would even let myself do it. And I don't know whether I can or not. I don't know. I don't know if I can or not, but I'm going to try that one out.
Yeah, you clarified what you are there for. There might still be, habits that'll get in the way of enjoyment, but I think enjoyment is so important. Yeah, I don't know if you were in the course I did on enjoyment. It may have been a couple of years ago, but I thought it was important enough to do a whole course on it. And there's nothing like enjoyment to make the mind be present. It's the natural way to have presence with what you're doing, is to be in a state of enjoyment. That's a wonderful thing. It's also, I guess I was going to say it's a state where you're not being really greedy about getting something from your experience. The experience itself is the thing that you're getting. And so you can turn it into something. You can turn enjoyment into this thing you pursue, but it doesn't work very well that way. It works much better if you just let what you're doing be what you enjoy and shift right there in the middle of it. So I'm curious. I come back and report next week on your retreat and how it went, and because this seems like an important shift. If retreat is the right word for it, your tiny house experience, whatever that is. All right, thanks. Let's see, Robin, you were, I think, going to say you had unmuted about the same time. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going through these boxes of old photographs, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, going way, way back. And there were a number of photos of my mother with a brother that I never knew she had. And I was kind of blown away. She had two brothers, one of whom I knew really well, and this middle brother who clearly died, I don't know, maybe when he was like 7 or 8, but I knew nothing about him growing up. And his name was Carrie. And I had a brother who died before I was born, whose name was Carrie. And he died when he was 6 years old. And then I had a nephew who died at the age of 44, whose name was Carrie. So I'm just like in this state, just kind of blown out by this. Like the secrecy within my family, like with my brother Carrie, who died. We didn't talk about him in my family. He was a secret that we all knew, but we couldn't talk about him. I talked with my parents once when I was 19 about him. That was it. So I'm kind of in this like state of awe in a way, and just the amount of secrecy around all of this. And then the fact that there are these 3 Carries who all died in my family history. I don't quite know what to do
It's a
with
kind
it.
of a wow. I mean, what,
Yeah.
it's just kind of a wow.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
an, yeah.
And I just got in touch with this information. My sisters don't even know this yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That my mother had a brother who died.
Yeah. And then that they didn't talk about it, you know?
Nope. Nope. And all with the same name. Yeah. So
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot there to go
there's a lot
to
to
move
unpack
through.
there.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it feels like the universe in some way conspired for this to happen.
Yeah. And the impact on us of the things that aren't talked about.
Yes.
You know, sometimes they're not talked about so that we think that there won't be an impact.
Right.
But there is. In not talking about something, there's often an impact.
Yeah.
A more nebulous
Exactly.
one, perhaps, but an impact.
Yeah.
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 All right. Thanks for sharing that, Robin. It's really quite astonishing.